Well, new year. Everybody's excited. I don't think, 20-some days of practice and camp is always the most difficult thing. I know for us as coaches, it's kind of like Christmas morning. I really want to see what we've got, to be honest with you. And you could say, well, what do you mean, Coach? You guys got a lot of guys returning and things like that. But I really, in week one, you always are kind of curious as to what you really got. I think this year in particular, really curious as to what we got. To see some of those guys that have hopefully taken the next step and to be the next level. But it's always, for me, in week one, really to kind of see what kind of team we have. We know we got some really good football players, but how do we mesh together as a team? How do we really eliminate the human element when you go into a season of all those other things that are out there, with really high-end guys, how those things all kind of come together, their ability to be unselfish, to believe in what we do together is what really matters. That true toughness behind things of doing what's best for the team and not always what's best for you is always unique every year. And for the first time, I think it's a little bit more unique to our team this year, just because of who we've got and where we've been. And so that for me is where the jitters are. It's not that you're not, oh, your opponent, yes, but the whole idea of more than anything of that first time of seeing what this team's really made of. Will they compete? Will they scratch and claw? Will they do things together when adversity hits? So, but we're excited. I think they're more excited about really getting back into Nippert and getting the ruckus and getting the crowd, and something that was truly missed last year. And I think we've started to see it now throughout the country, and at least in the last few months of seeing some sporting events that I think there's a lot of anxiety to get that, and we got to be able to handle that as well.
Do you think there's any advantage to having a rivalry game open the season?
I do. I really do. I think for us this year in particular, with what we've got, knowing going to that first year, or first game with the expectations, but also the heightened awareness of what a rivalry game is all about. The ability for, really it all comes down to the respect you have for your opponent. In the way that you prepare and the things that you do. Everybody will be excited about Saturday. Everybody will be fired up about Saturday. But I think for us, it put a lot of heightened awareness in the last 10 days of practice to say, hey, this is now all of a sudden we're switching gears and we're not just getting ready for any game. We're getting ready for a rivalry game. And so it takes a little bit of the focus off of some of the preseason stuff, some of the hype stuff, and really puts it onto what it takes to win a football game.
There's been a bunch of attention on those Indiana-Notre Dame games. You guys haven't necessarily shied away from that. Did you have to, though, for the players, get them focused on Miami at all?
No, I don't think, that hasn't been something that, we've done things in the past for Navy through camp that has been very different. We've done things in the past for UCF that has been very different in camp, where we do things at night and have specific days just based on guys that we've played. We did nothing based on Indiana or Notre Dame, so it wasn't like we had to shift gears. We didn't do as much of our understanding of the rivalry during camp, because I knew when we came back there was those 4 or 5 days that school had started that we were kind of a transition, that we really hammered home what the rivalry is all about. 1888, 125th year, 58 to 59, of where it is, and really have kind of hammered on the first 3 games that we played against them. And year one, where there's about a 95% chance with 2 minutes to go in the game that they were going to win the game. Things changed really quick, and we watched and showed that. To year two, where they're up 10-0, then it becomes 10-3, and then they're going in to score again. We get a sack, fumble. I'm sorry, that's year 3. Year 2 was 7-0 going in the fourth quarter with the monsoon, and then year 3, where they were up 10-0. It was 10-7, and they were going in to score again. We ended up getting a sack, fumble, which changed the complexion of the entire game. It has been battles, and our guys, hopefully, the last 4 or 5 days, we've really made light of that and make sure they understand what, not just what the opening game is, but what a rivalry game and what it means to both sides of the coin here.
These are kind of uncharted waters for this program. You've never been ranked this high in preseason. You've been ranked a little bit higher than this once, I think, ever during any week. What do you hope that your players know as they kind of embark on this possibly historic season?
Well, too much is given, much more is expected. And not that they've been given anything. I think we kind of pride ourselves on everything that we've got. That's why you guys asked, you want this room? No, we like where we are. And Nothing has been given to these guys from year one to now. But I think there's much more that's been talked about. Much more of what they've done is being recognized. So with that being said, there's much more of an expectation from me as a coach, from us as a program. So I think that's what camp was really about. It wasn't about what are you ranked. It wasn't about who you play early in the season. It wasn't about your schedule. It was about what does this mean to us? Can we find a way to eliminate the human element, even though there's a lot of things being talked about? And that's why, to me, it's so intriguing to find out what we've really got. We've got good players. We've got a good team, but will we come together? Will we be able to play above our God-given abilities like we have in the last 3 years? I wouldn't say that in year one, but in year 2, 3, and 4, we found a way, doing things together to play above our abilities, and that's what you got to be able to do. So I think that's what the challenge has been. I think our guys understand it. That's why it's great to have a rivalry in week 1, because there is an incredible heightened awareness to what you're doing and how you're doing it.
That added attention from this offseason for the players, do you want them to embrace that? Do you want them to ignore it?
Yeah, I mean, there's me that ignores it. There's me that tries to live in a bubble, but you also got to understand that they don't, and it's there, and that's one of the great things about having the hype and the excitement back on campus with students. Last year was a little bit easy, even though going into the year with some people dropping out, all of a sudden you move up by nature in rankings. There was nobody around, so it wasn't like you were worried about. So there's a lot of things that we've got to be able to handle. These guys have had to handle already. All things at which we probably spent more time talking about and putting an expectation on us. And so that's why I think week 1 is more intriguing to me than any year that I've been here. Hey, it's a rivalry, but also to find out, okay, now, the things that we've been really, really good at in the last 3 years, can we be better at those things? And that's finding ways to play together and care about each other and take care of each other before anything else.
You mentioned anxiety, you mentioned jitters. You said the same thing last season. When you finally watched Austin Peay, you started to get that burn in your stomach, you said last year. Why is it important to get that before a season starts?
I don't feel good unless there's something like that there. I don't know, but week 1's always like that. I think just trying to figure out what you've got as a team as you're coming together. That's why camp is so unique. It's like, yes, you're fundamentally doing a lot of different things, but you're really seeing how your team's going to come together. But I think for me, in general, is being able to handle those things, the heightened awareness, the anxiety. But I got to be smart too, that I can't allow that to be pushed onto my team, because the thing you want them to do is to play loose, play free, play confident. And so there's a balance there that throughout this entire week we'll continue to push and make sure they understand. But that's the uniqueness of what they do. This ability now all of a sudden that, hopefully 40-some thousand screaming and hollering, that they can take a couple deep breaths, do what it is that they've been doing, and enjoy it.
How difficult is it to get a read on Miami? Not only because it's a new season, but they only got to play 3 games last year, and there's not much.
It is difficult. It's difficult to, with 3 games and in a unique year as well, meaning, there's a lot of different things. I think offensively they were a bit more different in my eyes, under center and more. I don't know if that was an experiment of things, knowing it was a little bit of a different year, and even the different times of how much practice time you had. So there's always uniqueness. I think the other thing is you can read up about a lot of people and from the Brendels and them of the world, of when people are going through camp, to know exactly what's going on and who's the quarterback and how they're looking and who's emerging, and sometimes you don't get as much of that from Miami. So there is a lot more of those unknowns, and that's why in week 1 it's always about yourself. So it's unique to have a rivalry game that you got to know your opponent better than anybody else, but it's week 1 and there's a lot of things that you don't know.
Did you get to watch any football over the weekend to kind of kickstart?
I did. You always got to learn from the lessons, and usually our Sunday meeting starts off with learning lessons from the week before, and that was what we did. It was a Monday meeting, but we definitely took some of those lessons that you saw from week 1 or week 0 to make sure our guys understand that especially early in the season, man, there's a lot of things we haven't done. We haven't tackled all that much. So you'd say that for the defense, that's a big deal. Well, that's for the offense as well. Those tailbacks haven't been hit and tackled. Those wide receivers haven't been hit and tackled, which means ball security is a big issue. We saw that in the Nebraska-Illinois game. So we show those things. Special teams are huge too. So watch it for myself, but also watch it to make an example and for our kids to learn from as well.
You mentioned hopefully 40,000 being there on Saturday. Just after last year, how excited are you personally to just see the buzz for this program in person, a sold-out Nippert again?
I'm excited for the kids. I mean, I probably overdid it last year. I was probably the one that worried more about the dullness of the stadium, especially in game one. I think our kids handled it really well. I thought me as a coach didn't handle it very well. So I think on the flip side, I'm ready for it to be able to handle it, and I hope our kids the same way are able to handle it, because there was a lot of emotion that was maybe taken out of the excitement of what we did last year, and sometimes going into week one, the things you got to be able to control is more than anything are your emotions, and that energy that's brought from the crowd can also drain you. So there's a lot of things that that this week will bring, and understanding of the emotions of the game, and it's 60 minutes, and running out there with hopefully 40,000 people screaming and hollering, you can't lose. Let that be for some of those young guys that might not be seeing a whole lot of the field, but those older guys got to be ready to play.
How much? Go ahead, Doc.
Go ahead, thanks. When you look at this schedule, how many games, without naming names, can you look at it and just say, physically and talent-wise, we're better than this team? And how many do you look at and say, maybe not, but the stuff that you're preaching now, all the intangibles about caring for one another, playing for each other, how many games might that factor into what happens?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, yes, I walk by the board every single day, and those things go through my mind. In year one, we were as talented as two of the teams that we played. We were less talented, I thought, as a team. We played as a team than everybody else. Two of those games we won. Miami was not one of them. We were not more talented than them, I didn't believe. As we moved forward, I thought we were 50-50 in year two. I thought in year three we were about 50-50. Last year I believed that we were more talented in 75% of the games and within our league, because that's really what we played other than we got to the bowl game. And I think it's probably pretty similar again this year, is on paper with talent-wise, you're going to be in those situations. In the games that you're not, maybe on paper, it's going to come down to something else. And so for the first time, I think that we are in a little bit of a different place. But I don't lie to our kids. I tell them the truth. I told them the truth before the Georgia game. Anything against that? Okay, so they're more talented than us. They got more stars. They got all this. That helps you on the pregame stuff and all the hype. But once the ball's kicked off after that first play, a lot of that goes out the window. And but I do think about it. I do go through it in my head, and that's why I worry more about the whole picture of what our team is and how they do things together, because they've prided themselves on grinding things out and out fighting and out hustling people, because that's what we need to do to win. And it might not always be the case now because of the talent level that we got.
How much does something even as simple as like the catwalk, get that first time getting off the bus and walking through fans, maybe mean something more, at least this, for this specific game?
I think for a lot of guys, it'll be a reminder of what's back, and for a lot of younger guys, for them to realize of what this college football really is. I think the older guys that know, and I would hope they're locked in and stuff, will enjoy it for what it is, but then know that it's about business. And good thing is we've only got a handful of those guys that I be curious as to how they handle that, how they handle running out onto the field with the energy of things that maybe if they were a young guy and didn't get to play last year, or did play a little bit last year, didn't have to worry about that. But that's where you believe and hope that the maturity of your team, of what you got, those kinds of things aren't something that's going to be a big factor.
All that stuff you had to do different last year, the bubble on Friday, is everything back to normal this season, or are there still things you're doing different?
Well, you're sitting here with a mask on as we talk, so
Fair enough.
I would say that things aren't all back to normal, but we are a family, and the things that we do within our family have been as normal as you can possibly be. And that's what, to me, I think they're probably more excited about it. There are some things that are not normal, but when the ball goes to get kicked off at 3:30, I think they're going to look around and feel really normal. There's going to be a lot of people out there, a lot of people screaming on it. Whether they've got a mask on, they won't worry one bit. But I think that feeling of getting a little bit more back to that normalcy is exciting for them, as well it is for me.
Very good.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We all thank Kaz for his work today. Not saying we're not still trying to keep him, but you know, there are some things that we're magicians, but we can't do that.
We can kidnap him.
Maybe we'll find a way.
We can kidnap him.
We got outside magicians, then we just be.
He could take you, Kaz.
I know.
Not gonna run too far, they're too fast.
You got a barn. You can put him in the barn.
That's right.
Maybe the text this morning.